Hi, everybody. My name is Bridget Marty, and I'm a Senior Associate Director and Career Coach with Working Professionals at the Carlson Business Career Center. Today, we're going to be talking about how to prepare for an interview, specifically how to answer some of the general questions that can come up in an interview or the why questions. We have another video that's about how to do general preparation, and we have another video that's about doing behavioral interview preparation. But this one is going to focus just on a smaller subset of questions. And again, this is all in an effort to help you be interview ready. We want you to go into your interviews confident and competent that you are going to be able to tackle whatever comes your way. So when we are working on our interview skills, we want to be thinking about anticipating the types of questions that could be asked. As you see here on the screen, there's 3 general types of questions that are asked. Again, we can prepare you for the majority of interviews. There are always folks that go a little rogue, but general questions can be why questions, or tell us more about this. Strengths, weaknesses, areas to develop, how will you get up to speed in this role? They're very open-ended. Behavioral questions are questions that we'll tackle in our next video, but those are more about highlighting past experiences and how you've demonstrated a skill or knowledge. And then there's the closing questions. And so these are the questions that you are offering to the interviewer at the end. And that's also something that you'll want to prepare in advance. So let's dig into the general questions and some best tips. So best tips overall for asking a why or answering a why question. If an interviewer is saying, why are you interested in this role? Why do you feel you're a good fit? The basic framework that we encourage you to use is to have a reason with a supportive anecdote, or a reason with a story, or something that is going to help the listener, the interviewer, create a picture in their mind of something about you, and that's very specific. If we offer kind of flowery generalizations, such as if someone were to say, Bridget, why are you interested in the Carlson School of Management? And I would say, if I were to say something like, I just really appreciate the commitment that the university makes to educating students, and that's really important to me. Okay, so that's kind of a vague answer. However, if we get a more specific and I have a reason and a story, then that's going to be more memorable because we remember story. So if I say, what's important to me is to work for an organization that has the highest standard of excellence and continually strives to improve. From my conversations with people at Carlson, I've heard repeatedly about how the organization is always seeking to meet the needs of the students, conducting assessments to learn more about how curriculum should be adapting to the changing needs of the job market, the importance of being regarded as a regional and national leader in different areas of business. Those are pieces of an organization that really matter to me, and I want to be part of supporting that excellence. That's a very different type of answer than something that's very general. So I have a couple of examples in these next few slides, but this was one very general about someone asking, why are you interested in working for this energy company? And you can see that this answer was really following the formula. The first reason is impact. So if it's why are you interested in this company or role, I'm listening for at least 2, if not 3 reasons. But so that first reason is impact. And then the candidate provides a little more context about what that means to them and their exposure to work that has had impact. You see at the bottom right of the screen, it says, what's the reason? What was the anecdote? As an interviewer, that's what I would write down is, okay, they have a reason, they want to make an impact, and then they gave an example. We have other examples here about why would you want to work for General Mills? And you can see that they identified the reason as being, I want to work with consequential leaders. And then they gave an anecdote about West Point. Again, when we're sharing a specific and concise story, we remember that so much better than just general platitudes. Finally, the example at the bottom I thought was a fun one of why are you interested in working for Airbnb? The candidate says, I'm energized by Airbnb's goal of making people feel at home anywhere in the world. In my last role for Megacorp, I traveled a lot while working with global teams. Feeling at home in each location was essential to my success and happiness. Having an opportunity to set so many others up for similar success and happiness is incredibly appealing. That is such a fantastic way to demonstrate a connection to what Airbnb is looking to do, is helping people feel at home. So put time into preparing why this company, why this role, and having 2 to 3 reasons with supportive, brief anecdotes, okay? Another type of common general question is going to be in the strengths, weaknesses, areas of development category. Strengths are obviously something we want you to be mindful of, and that's under the vein of what are you going to bring to this role that's unique to you? What are the pieces of work that are really going to light you up and how you're going to bring value to this organization? You can always source that content through your Clifton Strengths results if you've done that. If you also just reflect on what are the parts of work that are really exciting to you. Then with the area of development or weaknesses, this can really get folks anxious. I have had folks report back that they've had interviewers say, identify 3 weaknesses, which starts to feel like the Pain Olympics a little bit to a candidate. However, the intention typically from the interviewer's standpoint is to generally just get a sense of your self-awareness and your commitment to growth. It's also sometimes meant to throw you off a little bit as a candidate because they're interested in maybe seeing how you respond to an uncomfortable question. In terms of answering, as we go back to the same thing we did in the last slide, when we're answering, giving an answer or a reason with a brief supporting anecdote. If it's what are 3 of your strengths, let's say one of your strengths is conducting analyses of mega data, you might want to offer, in my recent experiential ed course where I was working on a consulting project, I had the opportunity to work with 25,000 lines of data. And that work came so naturally to me. And I found it was something I really excel at, and I want to bring that to the table. I hope Excel is kind of like a pun too, because maybe they were using Excel sheets. Anyways, then the question about weaknesses or areas to develop, be specific. Know those areas that you are not so great at. And again, not meant to be Pain Olympics, meant to show you're mindful and you are working towards it, towards something better, ideally, not better, or enhancing your skills. It kind of depends on whatever that weakness or development area is. I've had folks say presentation skills are an area that they are feeling maybe less confident in. These are ways that they're building their confidence, working with data, having a knowledge of a certain area of business that isn't as familiar to them, being honest, and again, just highlighting how you're going to work towards building a stronger confidence and competence level is all they're listening for. This question about identifying how you'll get up to speed in a new role or in a new industry. How are you going to manage knowledge gaps? I want us to take a step back. Often we're reviewing a position description. You're looking at something, you're really excited, you've applied for it, you have that interview. Likely there's 1 or 2 things, 3 or 4 things in the position description that are a little out of reach. They're parts of work you haven't done before, you haven't had as much exposure. I think of it as like when you're packing for a trip and you want to leave a little room in your suitcase in case you buy some extra stuff. When you're interviewing for a role, likely you're applying to a role that you're going to get to grow into and you have a little extra space to kind of grow. So we also want to acknowledge that though, because that gap in your knowledge or skill or experience could be what is top of mind to the interviewer. They might be thinking, ooh, candidate Bridget does not have experience in the solar industry. And as a candidate, it is my job to absolutely ease any concerns from the interviewer's perspective. So I think it's really important to anticipate a question like this. And you can see the example at the top, how you compensate or what parts of this job will feel like a stretch. Be honest. Here are some of the things that'll be new for me. But then sharing like a strategy that you're going to use to get up to speed, and an example of how you've done that in the past too. Often, if you're coming out of graduate school, that's a wonderful example of how you have started sometimes at zero in some of your subjects, and then you have built a really big toolkit of new skills as a result of that class. So you could say, if I say while I don't have experience in the solar industry, that is something that's really exciting to me about the job because it's an area I'm really enthusiastic in. I've recently joined Solar Professionals International. I have been attending webinars from the Solar Expert, and I have been conducting informational interviews and building out my professional network in that space. So anything that's showing I'm mindful of this and I am responsible for mitigating it. Again, wants to see self-awareness. Finally, the closing questions. This is an area that is very often overlooked by our candidates, understandably, because we just want to get you to that end of that interview. And sometimes you just want to be done. However, we think about where you are at the end of that interview. And this is that chance to really make a great impression at the end. I think of the first few weeks in a role and the last few weeks in a role are very important in terms of building reputation and reinforcing reputation. This is an opportunity for you to ask questions and interact with your interviewers in a way that shows some of your personality, or some of those initial steps of building rapport, and also helps them understand what's interesting to you. I am not going to tell you what questions you have to ask. Instead, it's what are the questions that matter to you? If you are very curious about the manager's style of leadership, if you're very interested in the team or the cross-functional teams, the culture of the organization, if you're interested in the future of the organization, where they're growing, or if they've had a recent significant change, acquisition, mergers, divestitures, you can ask questions about that. And hopefully these are questions that are very authentic to you, and they're not just something from a general list that doesn't really matter. I've given the example before that something that's very important to me is culture and a sense of team and community in my work. A question I would ask is, what is the most recent celebration your team has had? And what was it? And how did you celebrate? And I like to just hear what folks have to say. Do they say, oh, we had a wonderful quarter, and so we had a pizza lunch? Sounds good to me. Perhaps it was somebody's birthday, or they had a holiday celebration, or perhaps they've had no celebrations because they don't celebrate anything. At least I know. And they also get to know a little bit about me based on the question I'm asking. So when you are asking those closing questions, when they say, do you have any additional questions for me? You can say, for example, on the left, I'm looking to be in an organization that will, and you kind of put in whatever it is that you want. I'm interested in how you've experienced that. So you're telling them a little bit about you. I'm interested in continuing to grow professionally. How has that been for you here? Or I really appreciate feedback, actionable feedback, feed forward. How has that been for you? You're subtly reinforcing some of your personal brand, things that are important to you. I want to shift our attention over to the right side of the screen. This is kind of that like elevated, like you want to take it one step further in that closing. Let's say you had a great interview, and you just want to really make sure that they know how interested you are in this role, because enthusiasm is very memorable. So if, let's say, your interviewer asks you, do you have any additional questions for us, Bridget? I could say, thank you. While I don't at this time, I do want to take an opportunity to thank you. Every conversation I've had with employees at your organization, everything I've learned about this role, the mission, absolutely reinforces my desire to help bring value to your organization. It is a nice way to end if it's truly authentic and it's how you feel. What a great thing to be able to do, to say to someone, I really appreciate the work that you're doing, and I think your organization is great, and genuinely mean it. Why not end on that really happy note with someone? This is also something you can do in a follow-up thank you email as well. You wouldn't necessarily say, I don't have any more questions for you, but you could say, I want to take the opportunity to thank you again. Again, manners matter. Okay. Action steps for you. Take time to jot down 3 strengths and 3 weaknesses. It's not something most of us do when we're just hanging out with our friends, but it's nice to get that out of the way and start to identify what some of those answers might be. And we're here to work with you as your coaches to help you build out those answers as you identify what the strength or the weakness is, and then give an example. Okay. Thanks so much for joining me for this video. Hope to see you in our next video.